Hail, hail, the Celts are here. We can barely talk, but what the hell do we care anyway? We're here, live, back on a Thursday night. It's been a wee week or two since we've been together, but we're back for a wee bit of Sorare Celtic Supporters Club on a Thursday night, and I'm joined as ever, barely with my voice, by McBride Ace. McBride, good to see you, mate. Hail, hail.
Sounds like I'm doing all the talking tonight, Quiddy. That was all the shouting you were doing, all that singing last night. Good evening, everyone. Hope you're all well.
Good to see you, and yeah, it's mainly fine. But once I've got a big sentence, if I feel like it's breaking at the back there. It's been non-stop talking for me today, which is it's kind of fun, I suppose. But yeah, the old vocal cords. And I was saying this earlier, McBride, but I'd lost my voice by half time last night just from not even singing because there wasn't even any songs going on. It was just shouting at McGregor to tackle somebody.
I know, because you were sitting beside me. My ears were ringing by that point. So we were right beside the Bayern fans. So between you shouting at McGregor and the Bayern fans singing consistently, FC Bayern Munich. I was actually dreaming that last night. Like sort of dreaming like FC Bayern Munich. It's worse than Chelsea, 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 and all that sort of chanting stuff. But it was a really good night. Big night at Celtic Park, and played pretty well, Like, it's obviously you go home for those games and you're disappointed when you've not got at least a draw or a win or whatever. But it was a really good night, big game, and looked like an actual Champions League outfit for once, which was quite good, playing against a really, really good elite team.
That was the best thing about it, It was something me and you definitely were both noticing watching the game and speaking on, but there was nothing in it. Like, there was really nothing in it. It wasn't like, every time they got the ball down the left, we were cooked, or every time Musiala got on the ball, no one get near him. It was just there was nothing in it, very, very tight. And I think the most pessimistic of Celtic fans, that's what they wanted out of that game, was to look the part at the very least,
Yeah. I think, I mean, obviously once you get a few drinks or whatever, and even you've been out before it, you get a bit of the bravado. But when you're thinking about it, really, you just like, could have been one of those where you're watching from behind your couch type thing. And like, I'm more confident now to watch the game next week, seeing how we set up and things. Okay, we could still lose by a few, and we've seen that Dortmund performance and everything. But then we've seen the Atlanta performance. We've seen performance last night. We've beaten Leipzig and everything. So, I'm a bit more confident now. It's just a different sort of maturity in the performance. I've watched, like, for example, a lot of Spurs recently, and like, you go into games and you're like, you just pretty much know they're going to concede a few goals, and they've got people out and they start going gung ho and everything. And like, last night it was more of a sort of measured game, and it wasn't like Bayern Munich played really well and they had maybe quieting down the crowd in the first half, with loads of possession of the ball and things, but there weren't kind of a lot of chances, and Celtic were competing, we were getting the ball, and sometimes we were looking after it okay. We just maybe didn't really just have quite as much of the ball. But I think we've done as well against them as pretty much any team has in the whole of the Champions League this season. Obviously in the league phase, and now coming into here, like, they've dominated other teams. So I thought it was pretty good. You're obviously good at the tactical setup and everything. So if you get your tactics board out later, how we were sort of shaping up out of possession and everything. But I mean, we gave it a good go, and in another night we could easily have got at least a draw for that game, I thought. So it was good.
It was good, yeah. I think, like, tactically, like, we were not really surprised by much in the game. I think just I kind of memories came back to me there as you were talking, and just thinking about those early stages of the match, especially. I was so surprised at how slow Tati was on the night. Like, he's been getting a hard time off some of the fans. I went through the stats. People are saying he lost the ball left and right. He had like 5 possession lost, like 4 missed passes in the game. So anyone who's kind of harping on the Tati maybe need to go and watch the game twice just to double check there's not a wee bias in there, But he was slow. Like, see the press doesn't really help either. They still covered ground, got back defended and stuff like that, but he didn't have that same glide across the grass. He didn't really have that same zip through the pitch that he normally had. And I described him on Axom as having 2 sandbags tied to sandbag tied to each leg. Just looked like his legs were heavy. He was running through mud.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I mean, I suppose we were watching the game. Like, the first thing was that, like, Ida wasn't really as good at the sort of pressing for the front as like Furuhashi was against Leipzig, and even when Maeda went up front, he always causes some sort of chaos wherever he is, really. But we actually looked quite good when he was up front as well. So there was that. I don't know. Can that be a tactical thing as well? Because we did not sit in, but the setup was pretty different, and maybe it was like an actual tactical thing where he wasn't really instructed to go out and press as much. But anyway, I mean, we're playing against like a world class team, and lots of like really good players, and we conceded that goal where it was, just a worldy finish. You get proper punished for any sort of small sort of mistake. And it wasn't the biggest mistake, but you just get punished for it with a huge amount of quality. And you could see like with Sani and Elise, like just so dangerous. Like they're just brilliant, like top level players. So we had to kind of set up to protect against that a wee bit. Otherwise, we could have got one of those sort of drubbing performances, but we didn't. And I thought we, with a couple of wee spells where maybe we gave it away too easily, but largely I thought we put in quite good performance levels on the ball as well, and it wasn't really a hugely open game with loads of chances, but it could have been so different if that goal at the start, and if he does just marginally onside, or if he's not affecting jump over the ball or in front of the goalkeeper or whatever, and it gets given, and the place is absolutely rocking. Could all have been so different, but there was loads of positives, and like when you think back to like how we did last year, and just kind of how far we've come on, and we've got Kieran Tierney lined up, and we're a wee bit frustrated not to get a striker in the window and everything. But I mean, like we look like a Champions League outfit, and that's a big compliment, I think, like based on where we've been in Europe and everything for the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, I thought the first half everyone put in such a good shift. The goal really did kind of, blemish the record, as it were. I'm full agreement, and I thought we missed a great opportunity. It was the one song I really tried to get going all by myself last night, but we had a great guilt-free opportunity to sing "Orange Bastard" at the ref, and not be in trouble for it in any way, because they were all wearing orange, like so. But nobody really joined in with that one for me, But that linesman right in front of us, mate, he gave nothing, didn't he? And the ref as well, he was dying not to give that penalty when he went to the VAR monitor. We all thought, oh, it's going to be a penalty, but there was still that nerves of, this prick, is he going to give it? And he didn't.
Yeah. I mean, I was really surprised. I mean, I suppose in real time we were away at the other end, so we never really kind of seen the incident as well, but once he goes to the monitor, you think, yeah, he's going to give it. I see it again like today, and like I still think it is a penalty. As other people think it's not a penalty because he got the ball first and all that sort of stuff, but he's clearly stomped on his foot. VAR have looked at that and they say, yeah, there's contact there. They've recommended he looks at it, and at that point you're just pretty much, assuming or thinking that that he's going to give the penalty. So, but I mean, the over and above that, we've conceded 2 early goals against Aston Villa. We're 2-0 against Bayern. We never capitulated in either game either. Then the mentality was still good. I mean, the end of the game there, Bayern were hanging on, right?
Yeah,
they were hanging on. And when they're 2-0 up, maybe their tactical mindset was to sit in a wee bit. But even that we still did actually create things. The one where, Maeda kind of went round the goalkeeper and it's a tight angle and he's played it across. That, was a very difficult finish, but he still created that sort of opportunity. And Jota looked quite lively. So Yang was excellent when he came on. Kind of looked pretty dangerous. So you can see a wee bit of progress there with him. So I sort of thought it was, it's just you don't want to be like too positive after getting beat 2-1, because at the end of the day we want to compete with teams, but we did compete. We're still like in the tie. If you get the first goal over there, then you're back even Steven type thing, and we might not, who knows? But 2-0 down, everybody in the past, like previous seasons, I thought, oh, we're going to get beat like 7 or 8 or whatever in aggregate here, and then but we didn't. We never gave up. We came back into it, and and showed a lot of sort of resilience. So yeah, really good. And I think like I would start with Maeda up front away from home there. To be honest, I'd rest him at the weekend because he's just played all those games thinking he was going to be suspended. So I'd give him a wee sort of game off and then just like let him off the leash next week. I just go right up front, just cause as much chaos as you possibly can. So it's a great campaign, really. Like your numbers wise, like pretty good, considering the level of opposition and everything. So
I'm with you. And there's some great points. So I bring up on the chat before I come back to you on what you've just said there. But AJ here, I really do echo this a lot. I thought the first half was very tame in that regard. And after Schlupp rattled Kimmich, like, I think it woke the crowd up, in a big way. Like the last 15 minutes was definitely when the temperature was lifted by the home fans. Also, the goal kind of helped us get on our toes a bit. But I'm with you. I know you don't want to break ranks and give space to Bayern. You need to deny them the space. We were all talking about the preview. Brendan said it as well in the press conference. I get that. But there was so many times where, like, we were in touching distance of the ball. McGregor, prime culprit for me. And just no willingness, no initiative to affect the ball. Not even win it, but just affect it. Stop them having complete control. Michelle said the Tate buzzword that I mentioned earlier, so I put that on screen. 5 possession lost, only 3 missed passes. So, I don't know. I think it's a perception thing. I thought Tate in the final third was pretty a non-event, but in the middle third and back in our half, like, he was useful, And again, to contextualise it, Hitate's man in this game was Kimmich, and Engels' man in this game was Goretzka. Like, that's who they were going against, man for man. All 4 of those players I just mentioned, for the 2 for us, 2 for them, all played 90 minutes as well. So it is like one of the steepest tests. Kimmich and Goretzka, I don't think Goretzka was in the World Cup winning squad. No, that was way before all them. But they've won Champions Leagues and all that caper. They're top guys, So you do need to remember that when you're being disappointed in something that they've done or not done. The people they're keeping pace with are like top of the food chain caliber guys. And it does really, this is where I want to come back to you on, McBride, because you're talking about it's getting chucked in the chat as well, about playing Dyson through the middle and going for it. But I think, like, this is set up for cup final territory next week. Like, if you're Brendan, it is handbrake off. Like, there's a goal down, go get the goal back, and then we can all just pretend that we got a draw in Glasgow, and then the game starts. Like, just go from there, get the first goal in 10 minutes, and then, right, okay, that's it. 0-0. Punch for punch now. Maybe not quite punch for punch at that point, but So I don't know. If you do rest Dyson, if you give Kuhn the day off at the weekend, we've not got quite the numbers to rest midfield. All 3 of our midfield played 90 minutes last night. McKeown probably comes in at the weekend. Bernardo probably isn't fit, so there is no other midfielders. Does Jeffrey Schlupp play midfield? I don't know. So it's we want to rest as many people as possible. We've got all the ability to rest everyone because the league is done. But we can't actually rest everyone, can we?
No, we can't. But what you can do is if you make the odd change, then you can bring people off early and things. You want to keep the momentum going. He's made a few changes against Dundee. Jota started, which was a bit of a surprise at that point because he was kind of just back in. But absolutely battered Dundee. It's 6-0 game, wasn't it? So, we're capable of making changes. I wonder whether there might be some other surprises. Obviously, Brendan's talked a lot about Dane Murray and everything recently, whether he goes kind of a bit more aggressive and just kind of like, makes quite a few changes. But I mean, like for the away game, come on to Dundee United, but for the away game, you can go one or two ways. I mean, I think that in these games, if you can keep yourself in the tie for as long as possible, then that gives you the option of doing something else. It's all right, you put Maeda up there and you hope that it causes some chaos and you hope that maybe you nick a goal. But, it might be that Kuhn and whoever's in Arsenal's Jota or whatever has to drop in a wee bit and just try and just don't go away and just don't concede 2 goals early like we did against Villa or whatever. Just do an Atlanta performance where, you get to half time and it's 0-0, and then there'll be question marks coming in over there because you look at all the Bayern press and everything, like they're all like, I thought we were slightly lucky, and they were even talking a bit negatively about things before the games and everything. Now, obviously, they've got ultra high standards because they're proper elite. They're like, we're thinking about winning the Champions League type thing. But, you just never know. Like, you know, get a half time, it's 0-0. You sort of 45 minutes here, we're only a goal down. And then all of a sudden you get that impetus like you had last night, where it was the last 15 minutes. We're not getting rolled over here. We're going to go and, maybe Bayern have sat in a wee bit, but we're going to show a bit of impetus and we're going to try and create stuff. We're going to try and score some goals. Engels was getting the crowd up, all that type of stuff. And on the crowd, I mean, you mentioned it as well, and I did notice that a lot, but I think it was a wee bit really unfortunate, that goal at the start, because everybody's all, you're away, you're having a drink, you're travelling to the game, you're getting up for it, you get into the stadium, the walk-ons on, the Champions League's on, everybody's going absolutely berserk for that. Your heart rate's just getting down. Bang, you've scored, everybody's going mental, and then you turn around and basically, and it's chopped off. So there was an element of that, that just kind of, you went away to the highest highs, and then you're like, yeah, I was knackered. it's like, so I need a breather for 5 minutes here, right? I'm getting old, but you know what I mean. So it just kind of takes the wind out yourselves a wee bit, and they played that well because they're an experienced team, and they just, when they got the ball, they just looked after the ball really and didn't do anything daft, and they took the sting out of the game a bit. But it's a top level team. I mean, there's just so many elite sort of players in there, and they're just they are really good. But I don't think we should be completely sort of fearful or whatever. We've got to go over there and execute a game plan and hope that we can keep it. We can stay in the tie for as long as possible, and then anything can happen. At that point, absolutely anything can happen.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I just wanted to bring up a comment here, kind of ties into what you were chatting about in some way as well, from Typhoon McFlustery, which is a new name to the chat. Thanks very much, mate. Please do hit the like button if you're enjoying the content here and all that good stuff. But I thought, since you mentioned it earlier, maybe we'll get the tactics board. I think the thing with Ida, right, in the press that we seen last night versus Dyson, right, is normally Ida does put in a decent little shift at the press for us. But the main difference with Bayern last night is Manuel Neuer, because Manuel Neuer is an outfield player when the ball's on the deck, So when you've got Ida to do that, and this was like a bit more stretched, when the ball is getting laid around, this is just overkill for him, that triangle. If the keeper was still being a keeper and it was having to go between two defenders, I think Ida would have been all right for that. And that's why Hatate's up here to try and help. But I just think Neuer never got any pressure on him, and that it just killed Ida for extra running, extra energy. He never really had that amount to give into that kind of role anyway for me, which is why I kind of said in my post-match, Kyogo was a big miss, because I just think he would have been a nightmare for them. Would have got way more action out of that. And I know you can say, he could have played Maeda and Jota and whatever, but Jota wouldn't have been doing this defensive winger shift that Dyson did in the first half, maybe as well, perhaps. Maybe he could have, but, he's not fit totally. He's not the same player as Dyson, different qualities or whatever. So do I think he's only made for the domestic game? I think the Aston Villa game maybe tells you that's a bit harsh, but it's this situation. The best players that can play on the ball athletically don't tire as quick as he does. Strength-wise, these guys were not scared of Ida. He definitely went shoulder to shoulder with him, gave him a fight, but it wasn't like he was bullying the China shop, but bullying him over the place and whatever. And when you compare him to Kane, right, which is a very, it's not very fair, right? But in a way, when you seen Kane being really impressive in this match, he was here, and he would win a foul, he'd get on the ball, maybe play someone else in or something like that. And Ida does that once or twice in Scotland. He'll come into these kind of patches. But yeah, if he's not going to drop in and play the game, he needs to stay up here. And it feels like this was just too deep for him to swim in, and can't really hold that against him. Some people can only run so fast, there's nothing wrong with that. So that's a tough one. How do you read that one, McBride, with Trusty, with Ida?
Yeah, I think he had a really good game against Aston Villa, and he caused problems, scored 2 goals. He was kind of done it. There was a kind of few sort of runs into the channel. He was sort of carrying the ball and everything. I think that maybe Aston Villa have had some issues at the back as well. I think that's sort of fair to say that too. So, maybe not quite as an elite sort of defences like Bayern Munich. I think it's maybe too early to say that he's not good enough for this level. But as you say, from the point of view of what we would do away from home, I think you've got to try Maeda through there, because you've seen it in the second half. Neuer got the ball, and Neuer was used to like taking a touch and doing this, and Maeda was right on top of him, and it was causing them real problems with playing out, because he's used to being that sort of sweeper keeper type guy who's always involved in the play, etc., and controlling the ball. So it was pretty interesting that. I did say that. I don't know if I said to you, I definitely did say that when Furuhashi went, that I'd really love to see Maeda playing through the middle. Like, it's a thing like a lot of his career people have been a bit unfair on him because he's been playing the left-hand side. Sometimes he plays at home against low blocks. He gets down, he's trying to cross it, and he's not naturally got a great sort of left foot and everything. He has really worked at his game. The goal against Rafe Rovers left-footed, so a really good finish and things. But what he was doing last night when he went through there was kind of him pretty much at his best, So pretty interesting one. And with Jota, you're right. I mean, he obviously is not up to speed yet. But the good thing is you've got the game at the weekend, and you can give him 60 or 70 minutes, and they should be approaching up to speed when it comes to the game against Bayern Munich, because he's had a sub appearance, he's the start, he's another sub appearance, might get another start. So, you really would hope that pretty much everybody will be up to speed by that game. So your Trump's kind of fun.
I don't know if you've seen this, but someone told me about this earlier today, that Rangers fans were saying, "Oh, we should do what we did with Tillman and loan him from Bayern Munich." And it's like, Jesus, man, wherever these people live, they don't understand. They don't watch football. Like, they just don't understand anything, do they? If they think they can get Elise to Rangers, like, it's just on loan as well. It's just
that was Michael Elise that was like hacking up in the Premier League for Crystal Palace and star of the show for France under whatever it was, or the Olympics, and then Bayern Munich paid like 40 or 50 million for him just to loan him out to somebody else. I don't think. I mean, so we're jesting and everything. I thought he was absolutely brilliant, honestly. I mean, we know, obviously, we know a lot of Bayern through Sorare, and they're really good in the top echelons, even a Sorare champion, all that sort of stuff. We know about guys like Upamecano and everything. And everybody always talks about Musiala, and people talk about Kimmich. But even goal aside, Elise just looks elegant. He's an athlete, but he's good on the ball, and he just looks as if he can do everything, So it's a wee bit jealous looking at him, but then that's the elite level that we're dealing with here. We're dealing with, if it wasn't Bayern Munich, would they get Real Madrid, and Real Madrid went away and beat Man City 3-2, and we're playing against Mbappe and Rodrigo and Vinicius Jr. I mean, that is the competition that we're in. Get to the later stages, you're playing against the absolute best of the best, and it was nice to go and see that type of match at Celtic Park, even though we never got the result. So
I'm trying to find a picture of him that shows this, right? But this is the first time I've seen Michael Elise in person, and I think I said it to him during the game. I've certainly said it to someone today. I don't think I've ever seen a footballer with smaller ankles in my life, and it felt like his feet were like paper thin. Like, it felt like his feet were two-dimensional, not three-dimensional, where it was like, walking on, like, I don't want to say flat-footed, so that's like a thing, isn't it? But is this image? I don't know. I'll put this one on.
I don't know how you noticed that, Quinny. Although I'd had like a couple of pints of Moretti and a cocktail and stuff like that, so there's no way I was noticing anything as detailed as that. But I
just thought there was something peculiar about his legs, and I'm like, his ankles, they're fucking that fat. Oh, what's going on here? This isn't the picture I thought it was. Oh, there we go. I don't know if that really, I don't know, but in person, like, he's not even got big thighs or anything like that. But I just thought his ankles looked tiny, like pure thin. And then his feet on the floor just look at that, just looked flat. It was a bit different last night with black boots and black socks. Maybe accentuates that a bit more, but I just thought, I've never seen a guy with such small ankles. Don't know if anyone else noticed that.
I had a few reasons for not noticing it, so that's fine. No bother at all. I thought he was great, honestly. I thought, even like Leroy Sané, I maybe didn't cause as many problems, but you could see how good he was. Like, sometimes even if he kind of dropped in a wee bit and helped winning back possession, and Leroy Sané's like just an athlete, really. He can play, but he's been a sort of top level player as well. So aye, but it was a good test to see where we are, and obviously next week will be an even bigger test because we're going away and you've got to go away and do that in their stadium, and you've got make sure you show that sort of resilience, the right setup and everything. But I was really pleased that we didn't just go out and just try and just go absolutely berserk and just not care if we conceded 4 or 5 or whatever, that we actually had a kind of mature setup there. We had a game plan and would try to find a way to work out how we could play against them that would stop them from ripping us apart, that type of thing. Like it was just much better, and it was good to see that, because sometimes maybe in the past Brendan's been accused of being a bit too one-dimensional or want to play in a certain way, but we look as if we've got a different way of playing now that works against better teams. So.
You see that
The
one?
big Upamecano was intent on stamping right down them. But anyway,
He was indeed. I was going to say on Sané, like that might be the first time I've seen Sané as well. Actually, I thought the most impressive thing about him is he was very upright when he was dribbling, and like all world class players didn't need to look at the ball. He's quite a tall guy. I just thought he was quite imposing when he dribbled. There wasn't really threatening. He didn't really do much. Like you say, Sané had quite a quiet game by his standards, but when he got on the ball, like you just felt fear coming out of him, or emitting, fear, because he's just doesn't need to look down, big stature, just crossing the pitch with the ball. I was quite impressed by him as well. And Kimmich, by the way, I don't know if you noticed this, but height, weight, everything looked the exact same as Hatate. Like they were marking each other, were together on the pitch quite often. And I was like, Jesus, man, Kimmich is the size of Hatate. I never thought he was that small, So that was an interesting little footnote I thought I'd add in there. But yeah, it was a good. We've been looking at chats on the first half, which I do think, like, we were about keeping in the game, like Brendan spoke about, keep the second leg alive. The goal comes at a pretty horrible time, and at half time, you maybe kind of brought on this already, so I'll just kind of pick it up again. But at half time, it felt like it was crying out for the forward line change at half time, because they were getting away with murder back there, and we were kind of standing off them a bit and letting them have it. And you felt maybe we up a gear now. We're 1-0 down. It's clear that Ida's not going to get on anything. So I don't want to go for it. And it didn't happen at halftime. Obviously, it happens eventually, which is fine. But by that time, they've scored to make it 2-0. And I don't know. It felt like at that point, like you said, it's like, oh no, here we go again. Can I caper? But the second half was a very different game to the first half. And the first half was quite non-eventish overall, wasn't it?
Yeah. I get that, and it's a bit frustrating to concede for the set play as well, because in these games you want to, like, it's all the sort of stages of play where they get the ball and you're trying to win it back, and and then when you get the ball you're trying to work into certain areas and stuff, and you just concede from a set play and you're like, oh God, it's like, that's it. I actually seen an interview and Kane said that that he'd said to Kimmich, like, it looks as if there's a bit of space at the back post, and like told him to put it there. But that's like that's the level you're playing against, right? Like, that's how good Kimmich is. So Kane said to him, I've noticed there's a bit of space at the back post. Kimmich says, that's fine, I'll just cross the ball at the back post. He puts it right in his toe. So all right, Harry Kane's like world-class striker. You shouldn't really have him like free in the box and stuff. But they had worked that out, because that's how good they are. So whatever, that we've conceded that goal, but the reaction, it was what really pleased me the most. Like, you can understand why a two-legged game in a playoff would be a bit cagey in the first half, because it's a two-legged playoff where away goals don't count, so you do see a lot of those games, and they are pretty cagey. It's not just a one-off like we're playing Bayern in home. It's league phase and you want to win 1 point or 3 points. It's a two-leg game, and it's a wee bit different. And then, from the point of view of like the ending of the game, we did really well. We could easily have scored a goal or two more towards the end of the game. We could have got a penalty. We come out with a lot of credit, but we want to follow that up next week and not go and do a Dortmund, right? We want to go over there and stay competitive. So
I'm with you. I'm just about to go and get the second goal, right? Because it was right in front of us. Now, I know you can't leave Harry Kane at the back post is all the chat, right? How do we find this? Sorry, is this? Just try to find the highlight again. Sorry. But they do like I know what you're saying as well. Like Kane in his post match mentions like he tells Kimmich he fancies it at the back post, and that's where he just keeps delivering. But like everyone's man marked here. Kane's just you'll see him in a second. I'll do my best to not get copyright struck on this, right? But look at that. So this is the better picture of it. Everyone's set up at the back post, and they're all the Celtic defence are all thinking they're going to run into the goal mouth to meet the ball and try and score the goal. And Kane's just back. You see him back here. He just keeps the brakes on. Doesn't he turn the ignition on? Just sits there parked. You know, it's not really that no one picked him up. It's kind of the way it done. I think that's the way I see it more. It's not that someone was stupid or switched off. They just done his, set the set piece up well, bought their man space. I don't want to play anymore in case we get in trouble, but I don't want to see it that much anyway.
Probably already getting struck off of the old YouTube for doing that. So
I'm not even sure where Johnson is in this melee. We maybe go back to here. But one of them is Taylor, Engels, Trusty. Is this Johnson here then maybe?
Depends how you're marking as well, like whether or not you're doing like this sort of zonal marking or whether you're supposed to be man for man. Like, some teams like play a couple of guys in certain areas and then the other guys are man for man. So it's hard to tell, innit? But you can see, like, he is free at the back post. So, like,
yeah.
Aye. So, but he's got a man at the edge of the box as well. It's not significant, really, but aye. But he's a clever player, like everybody slags him off a wee bit, like in certain things. Not going into that, but he's a top class player, right? Plays for Bayern, plays for England. Not really won anything yet, but he's scored goals for fun for his whole career, top level player. So there we go. But again, we'll focus on what we did as well. All right, with brilliant finish by Elise. They scored that goal, but we could easily, it was another chance to capitulate and end up losing 3 or 4, and we didn't. We got ourselves back into the tie. So that's got to be the positive.
I wouldn't really be giving anyone a fault for that, to be honest with you. AJ lost him fine, but AJ's like, can we look at it again? I've still got it here. At the beginning of this, he's already like not with Kane anyway. He's already like in the goal face. This is the very beginning of it, isn't it? So Taylor, Engels, and Trusty are here. And then, yes, is Alistair Johnson. So has Alistair Johnson lost him? Maybe if we're man marking all 4 of those guys, but I don't think we would have been man marking all 4 of them. 10 keepers in the box himself with Ida on the front post. Maybe he is. I don't know. Maybe somebody's lost him. I find it hard if I was the manager to really point somebody there and say, you did that. I think you can just kind of blanket everyone. Don't leave Kane empty,
Yeah.
But they have done us there, It's not anyone's really fucked up for me. I don't think there's individual blame to be given out there.
Yeah.
Personally.
That's a bit of quality. He's put it right in his toe, and it's probably about 90% of strikers in world football would have blotted that right into the stand, and he's better than that, right? He's a good finisher. So sometimes you've got to hold your hands up a wee bit as well. Aye. Kane the trophy dodger. Yeah. Obviously.
Good chat catching up. Sorry, I was just trying to keep up with it all there. But yeah, second half was great. I thought the subs really injected life into it again, got us going. Obviously, the goal then happens not too long thereafter. And for the last 10 minutes, that's what I wanted from kickoff. Stadium buzzing, the game in the balance. We're going forward. We're trying stuff. We're causing mistakes. Do we get a penalty? Does Maeda squeeze that goal in after he rounds the keeper? All that stuff happened at the very end of the game.
Yeah. Engels was over taking corners and he was giving it the, get the fans up and things, Yeah. I mean, it's a tough one too, because I don't know. Sometimes we come to Celtic Park and it's like, there's a bit of like trepidation. It's like, we're playing Bayern Munich tonight. So we're kind of scared we're going to get a drubbing or whatever. I don't know. I guess you can't really expect fans to sing for sort of 90 minutes. That will reserve that for the Bayern fans, like they were off their nut. It was harder for us because we were right beside them, so we probably couldn't really hear. and else bar them. So, but yeah, I mean, you're right. We finished that way, but we want to make sure we in some way impose ourselves on the game next week as well, right? So we might have to be a bit cagey to try and keep ourselves in it, but then try and go and affect the game. Give ourselves some chances, and I think we can see on the counter attack or whatever, or just when they're in comfortable possession and Maeda starts to run riot like he usually does. I think he can definitely cause some issues again there. Maybe from the point of view of the wingers, might be him and Kuhn. Maybe, Jota's a bit more reserved. Kuhn has got the pace to sort of do the up and down. So maybe I think you'll see Yang at the weekend. Like, if you don't start him the weekend when you're 13 points clear and he's played that well in the Champions League game and you need to rest some legs or whatever, when you're ever going to start the guy, and he deserves a start because he was really good when he came on. He looked as if he'd beaten the players. He was good on the ball. He was, kind of helped change the game, and that was nice to see because everybody was writing them off and calling them a project or saying that type of it was an experiment and we should just get rid of him or whatever. But now you can see him actually putting in some decent performances in a Champions League level. It's definitely worth staying with him and seeking that improvement continue. Because you do need these guys to come in, and you can't just play Kuhn and Maeda just every minute, every game. You've got to have guys that can come on and play in certain phases of the game and add some stuff to the team. So it was really good. It was good to see him improving.
I think Yang's a great story on development. We've seen a few of them at Celtic over the years. Ralston in a different way, Taylor in a different way, but Yang's like a kind of young guy brought in from abroad. There's lots of different kind of details going on there. I've seen it not too long ago, but see this recent run he's had. When did they start getting into the team? From the Dundee United match, Christmas Eve. So I'll pop this on screen. There was two across all of these matches. There's a goal and an assist that he's left on the table, a chance he missed, and a pass he didn't make, or a pass he did make and someone didn't shoot. Can't remember the details, but I know in my head he's left a goal and an assist on the table there. If you were to look at this, McBride, without being like, Yang out, or we need more wingers and all the rest of it, you said this is a guy that's come in and played these minutes for Celtic, 60 minutes. How often has he played? 90 twice, a few times off the bench. He's won 2 penalties. And let's say he got the extra goal and assist that I'm saying he's left out on the table there. 2 goals, 2 assists over that time period for those minutes. I don't think you would really be that upset with the guy or really think he's that much a dead weight or whatever. And what I think Yang is going to end up being for us, right, is going to be the next Bernabei. It's going to be the next Lagerbielke. We've seen Lagerbielke do all right. He's playing now in the Conference League for Twente. I think we could sell Lagerbielke Bernabei style for a few bob. We might even make the Rockies money back on Lagerbielke if we're lucky. Because you never know. Maybe we get lucky, but I think we'll make money on Lagers. I think that's set up to be profitable all of a sudden. And I think Yang will be one of those guys similar to O. I think we'll just get him out. We'll get a good price for him. Maybe there's a sell-on fee in the future, and they will do decent in Belgium and the Championship and somewhere like that. I think it's never going to be a first teamer for us, but clubs like us, like as well as I do, McBride, Bruges, Benfica, they've got tons of guys like this that they buy. They might not even ever play them. They just buy them and loan them straight away and see if they can get turned into a player that they can sell on the background without doing any work. They just need to own them and move them. And we kind of, it's one of the things I said was good about that window, that we got stock in, because the squad needs stock to be sold on. We're not going to sell McGregor. We're not going to sell Forrest. We're not going to sell Schmeichel for a different reason. Ralston's not going to get sold, etc. So you need players that can lubricate the finances a little bit, especially because Celtic don't actually net spend anything ever. They'll have to get sales to pay for the buys. So I think you kind of need this underbelly of the squad of guys that maybe can make a part of the squad, but Celtic need to be a bit more robust. And when I'm talking about Benfica and Bruges doing this, McBride, as you know, the guys that never play for them, it's not that they try to play them and they don't break into the team and all the fans hate them. They buy them, they go, chances are, probability, you're not good enough to play for us yet, but we like you. We bought you for 800 grand, £1 million. Go play for NAC Breda for a year and we'll watch you, and we'll just kind of deal with it from there. And we're not quite that proactive. We're buying players. We need them to be in the team. And then this stuff is kind of like, can we get out of it? Can we get a loan? Then can we get somebody to buy them? Whereas once we've done the Tierney thing, once we've reinforced the first team again, that is like a transfer strategy we should have, like in the background, for the Tilios of this world, for the Yangs of this world, that Celtic identify, he's a couple of quid. Go on. These kind of guys, not much to be lost on it. Bring them in, but instantly have them lined up to go to Kilmarnock, to Shamrock Rovers, if that's really the level the guys at, or the Austrian team, or like Welsh and Hendry, get them into Belgium somehow. We're a bit more proactive in that sense, like Yang, like a BLK Bernabei. This could be a little theme of players that we kind of always kind of get around the squad for a wee while to come.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the only problem with that is obviously we've had a lot of young guys coming through and they've not really like believed that they're going to get game time themselves, so they wanted to move on. So that's a kind of tricky scenario, Like, it's obviously Ben Doak looks pretty good, and we never managed to keep him. So that's frustrating. But yeah, I mean, I think with Yang and things like now we've managed to move on Palma, etc. It's like, look, he's definitely getting a game. Like, he's like first sub or whatever now. Whereas one point you're like, this guy's like fourth sub, fifth sub, like in that position, like, so what's the point of that? Like, Odin Holm wasn't going to look in. He's went out. He's went to an MLS team, a good MLS team. So, if he does well, you could make a good profit on him, but he's getting game time and stuff. So you'd far rather see that than guys just sitting about, just not really actually developing. Obviously, you can develop in a way where you learn the culture, you learn how to be part of the squad, you contribute, you train well, you can improve yourself. But these guys need games. A lot of them do need to actually play football to develop and learn and just improve. They're young, So, but that strategy you mentioned worked really well because everybody slagged off the Bernabei, transfer. It doesn't look very good, didn't work out, but we managed to get him a decent loan and then we made a profit on him. So, if you make a profit on the majority of the young guys that you're bringing in, then you've done really well. Whether or not he suited us, no, but he suited somebody else, and we've sold him on for more money, and that's the good thing about getting young guys with some sort of talent. So yeah, it's worked pretty well, and you see with other teams, we don't need to mention them, but they buy guys on high wages and then they try and sell them. Like, why are we not getting big fees for them? Well, nobody's going to pay a big fee for a guy that's already getting overpaid in wages, right? Because they have to take on a big wage, and they're not particularly young guys or whatever, so that type of thing. But even company was saying that like he thought the Celtic were quite an exciting club, and he was talking about how it looked like a good place for people to come and develop and all that sort of stuff. So we're building that reputation now, and that helps because then that means that if Engels is the next guy that goes for a certain amount of money, you can attract somebody like him because you can say, look, what's happened to Matt O'Reilly, look what's happened to Engels, look what's happened to Jota. Like, these guys have come and they've got good moves, so you can come and you can win stuff. You want to stay Magic, but the model dictates that the guys who really improve a lot have got a big value. You'll get a transfer, but it'll be to a bigger league and stuff like that. Because a lot of these guys don't have that move available. Like, nobody was really in for Engels, were they? Bayern Munich weren't in for him, and didn't hear any real rumours.
It was just us.
Just us. But a good piece of recruitment, because we've got to be balanced and we've slagged off a lot of the stuff in the windows. He's not the same type of player as Matt O'Reilly, but he looked really good and he contributes in his own way. Plus, he's still really young. He's only turned 21, so he's still like pretty young. I don't think he'll be here very long, if I'm honest. I think he's one of those guys that will want to move on to the bigger level. But the quicker we develop him, the more we can get out of him, the higher the fee is. Then we move on and the squad evolves. So
yeah, and I think that's the pattern Celtic are after, is like you bring in some of the international players to turn and burn them, or to sell them on, however you want to think of it as. But you need that, and again, that sounds like I can hear Brendan's voice or the board's voice or whatever, but you need that Scottish core, the guys that you're not going to sell, like McKeown, McGregor, Ralston, these guys, to be there, to keep the personality of the squad, to keep the principles, the club and everything intact. Before we move on to the weekend and put ourselves into Brendan's Tom Ford's, John Mulaney have we got a good enough squad to win at Bayern next week? The squad part of that is the part of the question I pick up on, because I did say, McBride, in the breakdown, it felt like the Celtic board recoiled when we seen the Bayern fixture and thought, we don't need to spend money to lose this game. We can lose this game without spending money, kind of attitude. But I think if we got Tierney in, I think if we had a replacement for Kyogo in, we could have won last night.
Yeah, but I don't think that changes things. Like, I think we can win there, but it's unlikely. Who would have given us a chance of getting a 0-0 against Atalanta? I mean, like, seriously, like, you look at all their results. The next game they won 6-0 against an Italian team. They went in a tear. They beat teams for 6, 7, 8 weeks in a row or whatever. They were scoring loads of goals. So who would have ever thought we'd actually get a draw there? So can we get a result over there? We can. It's not very likely that we get a result over there, but you've got to go and you've got to give it your best and try and do what we did. And just, you just never know on the night. Funny things happen in football, and, but we've got to make sure we're still in the tie, and we are still in the tie. It's going to be very, very difficult, but there's no away goals now, so it's not as bad as it was in the past where you beat 2-1 at home. So, yeah, just got to go and give it a go.
Some great chat coming in, and thanks to everyone that's joining us live and loud. If you haven't done so already, please do hit the like button on the stream. We might find some more Jungle Gyms to come and hang out with us on a Thursday night for a wee Celtic Supporters Club action. One of me and McBride's favourite parts of these shows is we like to put on Brendan Rodgers as Tom Ford. We like to get into the shoes of the manager, try and get into the headspace and think, what team is he actually going to pick ahead of the weekend? Me and McBride love a wee bit of fantasy football, and that's a big, big part of our weekend is, what is the Celtic team? Is it as expected, or is there a curveball in it? So it's definitely a part of the week I know me and McBride have a good bit of fun with, and hopefully you guys do too. But I think, McBride, looking at the squad layout for this week, actually a lot of question marks with what could happen, what should happen, what will he do. There's a lot of chat talking about how McKeown never got a kick last night, despite everyone else getting ran into the ground. I'm not too sure I consider that as a slight on in McKeown, so much as I think it's just keep the best guys on because it's 2-1 and we're not fucking around here kind of thing. Because he's put McKeown on against Villa, I'm sure, if my memory serves me right. So I don't think there's any doubt from Brendan or any shade being thrown from Brendan towards McKeown. How do you read that one? The midfield, McKeown.
Yeah, I think McKeown will start.
You think he starts the weekend?
I think he's got to start. I think you've got you've got to rotate a bit. You can't just slog the guys. And we had that Rafe Rovers game, we were able to rotate a wee bit. I think he'll make some changes because when we play in Scotland, we've got a lot of the possession of the ball, which means we're not chasing as much. But for a large parts of the game last night, we were kind of chasing the ball or trying to press the ball or out with possession. So I think he'll make some changes to freshen it up, because you want to go over there, and if you need to go over there and try and press and counter attack, then you need energy. So it's natural that I think he'll want to make a few changes. So I think McKeown's the one that's an absolute stick on to start in midfield, and then it's is Bernardo back from his injury? If not, do you start with Engels and take him off a bit early, or do you start with Hatate? He looked knackered as well. So as you say, maybe you do something different and you play Taylor left back, you start with Schlupp, just as a complete curveball type thing. Schlupp can play in midfield, so that's why he brought him in, because he play different positions. Start him there, and then maybe even Schlupp starts against Bayern Munich, just because he's got a bit more pace. I don't know. That might be one of the solutions. If you're playing Jota, for example, rather than Dyson, then Jota's not going to give as much protection back there. So maybe you start Schlupp, because he's got that natural pace to try and combat Elise. So yeah, I think there could be some changes in midfield, but he never ever really seems to drop McGregor. So he played against Rafe Rovers. So
yeah, McGregor's probably playing, isn't he? I think the Bernardo one is touch and go. We'll watch and see how that one comes. I didn't think that was a bad injury when he got it, but certainly no place on the bench for him against Bayern, which is pretty revealing, perhaps. The Schlupp one is interesting because if McGregor is going to get rested, it's probably Schlupp that comes in. I don't think Schlupp would come in for Engels.
I don't know. I mean, Engels does tend to put in a shift, right? So know, every so often he has been rested. I mean, we're 13 points clear. Like, we kind of do what we want.
Yeah.
Like,
if we had Odin home, he'd be useful today, wouldn't he? He'd be useful for this. If we had Odin home. Or a Wata. Way.
So we do want to keep the momentum going, and there's still a lot to play for, but so we don't want to like take a foot off the gas. But what I mean is we can take a bit more of a risk. We don't have to start with like 10 of the guys that started that game just because we're thinking this 3 points is crucial. We can be a bit more risky and we can rotate a bit more just with a view to targeting that game against Bayern Munich. And then if we're out, then we're out, and then we can focus on the other competitions, so.
Yeah. I think Dyson, I'm just keeping up with the chat. A lot of you guys are saying similar stuff to us as well. Love to see the interactions. And San Fran Celtic here, they were bouncing off Schlupp. I think he starts Tuesday as well, personally. And I think it was you, McBride, that said Jota probably gets 90. Was it you that said, do you think Jota gets 90 in this game? Baptism of fire, get you up to speed, crash course style. Was that you that said that?
I don't know. I think he'll start. Like he had the sub appearance and he started against Dundee, and we kind of thought that was maybe a wee bit too soon for him to start, but he started, and then he gets some bench time, and then he came on towards the end, obviously against Bayern. So I think he'll start. I don't think he'll play the full 90, but I think he'll play like 60 or 70 or something. Get that proper match fitness sort of workout into him, but not like. Don't tire him out too. If you intend to start him, obviously, against Bayern Munich, then to get him up to sort of match sharpness. So, I think he'll definitely start. I think it's an obvious one to rescue as well, right?
Yeah, I think so too. I think I think the front three probably does just about pick itself at this one for the weekend. The midfield is a big question mark, and then the defence, it's kind of a bit of something as well. The chat is going mad for Ralston, saying Johnson should be rested. Carter Vickers is getting a shout for rested. I think they are the only. Still don't know what's happening with left back, right? But I don't think it's a resting situation. It's maybe do we want Schlupp up a gear? Do we want to get him more match ready? It's against Dundee United. Schlupp or Taylor, it's neither here nor there. Who cares who's playing left back between the two of them, really? It's more the Bayern game, like you say, is the precursor. Yeah. Do we think Scales comes in for Vickers? You think Vickers still starts the weekend? I don't know.
I think Dane Murray could start. I don't know. I mean, like,
fair. Dane Murray Scales? Do you think he would do Dane Murray Scales?
You never know. I mean, I think he said that there was like, I'm sure he said that was it the Dundee game that got called off because the stadium was damaged. That he had some thoughts about starting Dane Murray in that game as well for Carter Vickers. So I think he likes Dane Murray. I think like he rates him, and obviously. He's had a lot of injuries in his young career. He's like a bad injury, like for like over a year and a half or whatever, and it's just like a proper long recovery time. So I think Celtic do rate him. And as you said earlier, he fills that sort of homegrown young Scottish guy side of things, somebody you want to have around the squad. So I think between now and the end of the season, he will get game time. And when you're 13 points clear or whatever, that's a perfect chance to give somebody like that game time. Does Vickers need a rest? I don't know. I mean, like. He's had like rests and stuff, but just depends how his overall fitness is. He maybe played that sort of run of like 7 or 8 in a row. And we kept saying he's going to get rested this week. He's going to get rested this week. And he just never rested them. But then we've built that lead now where you can afford to swap out the odd one. Johnson, Ralston. Well, Johnson had a rest a couple of games ago when Ralston came in, so it could indicate that he might do something similar. I don't know. For a Sorare point of view, I'm just getting a big headache now, so I don't know what I think of that.
Fair play. I think Trusty's quite like Monty's saying, don't make too many changes, need to keep winning. And I think Brendan values momentum, even though it's like this game. The Dundee United match, I don't think has the power to derail our momentum because we're so far ahead in the league. Like Dundee United would have to embarrass us, I think, for this game to have a negative impact on Bayern. I think the players will be able to compartmentalise it in their head easy enough that, this is Bayern, it's a different kettle of fish to Dundee United with the Champions League campaign we've had so far this year. So I think Trusty could stay in and dodge the rotation. If Vickers was to play, maybe he would play Murray saying you've got a right and a left. He does like a bit of that, doesn't he? So that's actually a bit of a headache, like you say. And Ralston and Johnson, like Johnson doesn't really get rested that much either. This does feel like an Anthony Ralston type match.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, Johnson tends to kind of play loads of games and then he gets a sit out and then he plays loads of games again. But this is just an unusual one because it's such a big, it's a Champions League playoff, you know? It's a really a kind of extra special occasion, you know, and we don't really get here very often, like to be in this like sort of spell like in Europe and in February and stuff. That's a bit unusual for us. So it could be a sort of special precaution if that makes sense. Johnson or
Yeah.
Rouse. Now, Dundee United will probably sit in right. So even away from home, when we played them, they sat right behind the ball. So I think either or would work.
Goodwin loves a bit of that, doesn't he? Goodwin loves parking the bus against the Glasgow teams, doesn't he?
Proper park the bus. So Jota and Yang just makes perfect sense because they're the kind of guys you would want to play against a low block. And then what he does with the defence, he could just say with the defence, you know, like if they park the bus, then they're just going to be strolling about. I'm not too worried about them, want to keep them in a match rather than. But I'd imagine there will be like probably like maybe one change or whatever in the defence, you know, like maybe two, I don't know, but most likely maybe like one-ish, you know.
Yeah, and again, Monty, I'm with you all the way on this one, but it's kind of like preparing for a cup final in some ways. Again, he had, oh sorry, that wasn't Monty's comment, or somebody else's that came up. So I'm with you on that, but if you're Brendan Rodgers, like you were just saying there, but this is our biggest Champions League campaign we have ever had. This will be our 10th match. We've already bagged 80 million. I think this game, somebody said this next match is worth 10 million. I don't know what we'll get guaranteed for these two matches, but we've got to be getting the thick end of 100 mil for this campaign. And we've never had 10 Champions League matches, excluding qualifiers, before. So it's like, it's real cup final territory. Imagine we get by Bayern. You know, we're in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. You know, that's what would happen if we beat Bayern, if we get by them. Extra time penalties, don't give a fuck how it happens. So do you just, I know what you're saying, Monty, but we don't give a fuck about the league right now. You know, like we've got Dundee United who probably give us all the ball. Like McBride's just kind of brought up there. And then we've got this game against Bayern. We don't need to worry about an invincible thing to protect because we're not invincible in the league anymore. The cup's dealt with. It's nothing to do with this match. Would it be last 16? Oh, of course, yeah. I'm an idiot. I was saying quarterfinals because I'm thinking it's 8 versus 8. There's 8 teams already qualified, and then the 8 winners of the playoffs play them. So I've just did 8 plus 8. I just did 8 quarterfinal, but it's last 16, and then the last 8 teams, 4 versus 4. Quarters, of course. Apologies, Terence. Thanks for the catch. I do appreciate that, man.
New format, Quinny. We'll leave you alone.
it's basic maths. I'm all right with middle maths, not good with high maths, and not good with low maths sometimes. But yeah, so yeah, I'm not too sure what happens with the defense. I think it's really all up in the air. I think Trusty's the most nailed on one for me. Taylor and Schlupp is quite a coin flip. I think it probably is Johnston, and he comes off for Ralston. Could maybe see a bit of that,
yeah.
And then the other centre back, like it could be empty, really. You know, the midfield kind of is limited, and the forward line is kind of limited. And in terms of like making sure you win this game, Engels, McGregor, Jota, Ida, you know, that's good enough to win this game. You know, that'll get us a couple of goals. You know, and that was the other thing I was going to mention. A few of the guys in the chat, McBride, were saying, "Rest Schmeichel, dare we?"
I was saying, like Sinisalo against Strafe Rovers, like you should have charged them an admission ticket. Like you just watched that much of the game, like just watching the game. Like it's like there you go, it's 30 quid. Like you've got to pay an entry fee. I don't know, maybe. It doesn't tend to. I think when Sinisalo played in the cup game, Schmeichel had a wee thing with his back, and Brendan said, "Look, it's nothing that serious, but we'll take a chance to." You know, like give him some rest. So I don't know. I wouldn't personally. I think that what you do is you get the league wrapped up by like the split or whatever, and then you play whoever you want. You know, like then you rotate and everything because you've still got to be in a rhythm. You know, we've got Hibs in the cup, so you've still got a few rounds of the cup to go. You've still got a big game to play against Bayern Munich. You've got to, you got to keep putting points on the board to make sure that you don't give any sort of hope out there that there's a comeback on, because all it takes, slip up for 2 games, you're looking at an Old Firm games, people are starting to say, oh, well, if they win that one, then it's only back to 5 points again, so you've got to just keep putting the points on the board. That's what I would say. And then once you've got the points on the board, you've got 4 games left and the league's wrapped up. You can play Dane Murray, you can play Sinisy, play anybody. I mean, you'll go and get our boots on, we'll go and get a game, and we'll get just like bring on the fans, and you all get a chance to play now because we've won the league right out the park. Let's go that way. Let's not mess about too much. But there will be rotations. I think we'll probably. How many do you think, based on that? Maybe changes from midweek. Maybe say 3 or 4. Maybe something like that.
I think this is a team I would imagine goes out. So I would say 1, 2, 3, 5. I'd give it 5.
Or 5, yeah. I don't think he'll go any more than 5, to be honest. You never know, but I think 4 or 5 kind of makes sense, because that's like half a team, and then you can manage minutes with other guys who haven't you haven't rested from the bench, and then that's you've really rotated nearly a whole team because you've got the 5 subs. So,
and we still go into the game with the mentality to win, Maestro. Please don't get me wrong on that, but let's give ourselves every chance of doing Bayern, So yeah, it's one of those ones. I know you've got a slightly different projected 11. I think you think is it maybe Taylor and Vickers for you, or are you kind of is this the kind of team you've got expected as well? Sorry,
I've really lowered the percentages. It's one of those where it's like I've put somebody at 60% here. You don't put your hat on him starting type thing, in the comments I said I think Schlipp will probably start somewhere, but I don't know, he might fill a midfield slot or whatever. I think if you're picking guys McCowan and Jota, for example, are just stick-ons to actually start, so you can, they'll definitely get minutes in the game. If they didn't start, be a surprise. They're definitely coming for the bench, but I think they're almost certainly starting based on, who we've got available in midfield. Yang really deserves a start. Might not start, but I think he really deserves a start. He's playing well, he's confident. He looks as if he's developing. Give him some game time. Makes loads of sense. Means that you can rest Kuhn a wee bit. He gets those kind of wee niggly things and everything as well. Those spells where he's missing games for what seems like daft stuff or whatever. So just manage his minutes and just have him fresh for the game against Bayern Munich. So yeah, and McGregor will just cut about, just his ears ringing for Quinny, just shouting, tackle somebody! Just tackle somebody!
The biggest pet peeve I've got with it is when the ball's in touching distance from him, and he's never going to do it. He's just never going to touch the ball. He's never going to affect it. He's never going to try and win it. And the other thing, if any of you have caught my analysis that went out earlier today, it was kind of at the end of the video. I meant to mention it earlier. But not once, by the way, does McGregor take a ball in a half turn anymore. McGregor is square shoulders the whole time, plays where he's facing, and that's safe and that's fine and whatever. But if you are going to be this guy needs to play on the half turn sometimes. This guy needs to open up his body on the first touch sometimes, And he'll probably be listening to the stream. McGregor fist bump. Thanks for joining, mate. Hope you've liked and subscribed and all that good chat. But we need you to do that, mate, against Bayerns and stuff like that at least once, because you'll rip them open with it because they'll only see it coming. I meant to say earlier, by the way, I got one of my best notifications in a while. Jordan Larson has scored tonight for Copenhagen versus Heidenheim. So we'll be linked to him in the summer.
No doubt, aye. Well, I think the thing as well is, Quinny, that I met him, McGregor, was the Leipzig game, wasn't it? He was brilliant against Leipzig. It's one of these kind of vintage performances. So I think the frustration is that we know that he's got that in him, So that we know he can do it, but a lot of times he got the ball, would touch it, and he would play it back to the defence, right? So
where he's facing,
Aye. There's patterns of play thing as well, because in Scotland, we do that and we try and recycle the ball out wide and everything, and understand it. So it could be a tactical thing for sure. Maybe after that doing we got against Dortmund or whatever, it's don't jump in, don't You know, because the thing is, like, as soon as you jump in against a Michael Elise or whatever, like, they like be through, you know. So, I been a bit harsh, but
I do
there we
get
go.
that, but I think like with this and with what Brown Warriors said on screen as well, like I get that, but there's two. The thing with football is it's the same as music, right? The best song you ever hear has a bit in it that you didn't hear coming. You did the first time you heard it. It was this unexpected surprise, and the same with football. The most effective sequences of play are the unexpected ones. And
Yeah,
yeah, maybe tactical. Let's keep it tight and all that, but you need to be aware that they're not expecting you to now go on the half turn and switch the ball out, or go on the half turn and ping it up to Ida into his feet. And you need to, be cute to that. And in terms of the diving in thing, I don't always need you to dive in, but like I always say, like I say, I didn't coach to like a professional level or anything, but I got my B license. I like to think I know a wee bit about what I'm yapping about. But if you can't always win the ball, it's like I mentioned with Sani. How does Sani dribble? He's upright, his chin's up, and he's looking at where he's going. He can control the ball with his feet without looking at it. See, if you touch the ball in any way at all, he needs to look at it. He needs to take another touch, and then he can go back to doing what he's doing. That might all sound really, petty or whatever, but that makes a material difference at that level of the game. If you just affect the ball, you don't need to win it, you know. So again, I'll bang that drum one more time.
no, I get your point. It's like look at what Maeda does. Right? Obviously, like McGregor can't really press like Maeda, run about like Maeda, do a lot of stuff like Maeda. But Maeda causes chaos, you know, because he's in amongst it, and you know, he's like the goal he scored against Rangers at Hampden. You know, he just like some mad flick on it. It's went up there. I'm going to put it there. You know, he just does stuff like that. So we know McGregor's not like that. But I get your point. It's like, you know, the ball's going to cross. He just seems quite passive. You know, it's always if I want to stay in position. But I think for that point of view, because he's not really a defensive midfielder, that hampers him as well, because he knows he's not got like recovery pace or whatever. You know, somebody like gets past him or whatever, he's not going to run back, he's not going to catch Michael Elise, he's not going to catch Sani. Not a lot of people are, but you know what I mean. Like, you know, he's not going to get back on Musiala or whatever, because they'll be away and then it'll be a goal. So I totally understand it, but you know, I think we take a lot of positives for that. I think, you know, we might get a chance to see some of the guys like Yang and everything at the weekend. Get to see Jota again at home, absolutely brilliant. You know, great to have him back. And we're talking now about bringing in guys like Jota on rotation in some way. You know, that's a far, far better position than we were in before. We managed to get rid of Palmer. Hallelujah. Honestly, guy was doing my nothing, amongst others. So no, we've managed to shift out some guys that we would want to get out, and it's starting to shape up the way you think you're getting there, you know. So we're nearly there.
Almost there. Dundee United, we batter them. How many goals do we get? Is it a modest 2 or 3, or do we put them to the sword and get another 5 or 6? I'm thinking this is a 2-0. That's how I'm feeling, McBride.
I was going to say maybe slightly less, so I'll just do something different. I'll just say 3-0. I do think we'll score a few, because even in the changes we've got some good quality there. So using within the Brendan's buzzwords. Pace, power, whatever you want to say, but we've got enough to score a couple of goals, I think, even against a low block, so we'll go for 3-0.
Nice one. If I was to take a man in the match, I'm going to go for McKeown. I can see McKeown being the star of the show in this one, fully rested, main man job, maybe gets 90 minutes as well. I think it could be a good one for him. Maybe Jota. Jota's the one everyone wants to write the headlines, but McKeown could be the one that, you know, puts the hard yards in, makes it get over the line kind of vibes. He always plays well against the Dundee teams.
I'm going to go for Youngsters Paradise. Go for Yang.
Love that. Yang hat-trick.
Well, you know, they play well. You can see, like, I think, like, yeah, if with that low block, you know, he'll cause some problems, you know. So I hope he builds on that, because I want him to do well. Everybody wants him to do well, but you know, hope he continues that form and he develops. That'd be great.
Yeah, likewise. And tennies are going to the game, Dundee United, or if you're going to Germany, in case we don't see you between them, travel safe. Hope you all have fun. If you've watched this after we've been live, this is where you leave your receipts on the internet. I want to see score predictions, man the match shouts. Leave them in the comments section, which will open up as soon as the live stream is done. For any of you guys that are live that want to get your receipts on the internet as well. And yeah, plenty of content out on the channel, reactions, breakdowns, previews, all that good stuff. But yeah, McBride, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Thanks for joining me. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail. The Celts are here.
Celts are here. Mon hoops.
Man of hoops.